3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from 3 Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 3, episode 16, and today we will be talking about that little show called Obi-Wan Kenobi that, sadly for now, the ride is over, but there is so much fun stuff that happens, so we want to talk about it. And joining us are Mollie and Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Oh my God, such a pleasure to have you guys finally on the show. I know we crossed paths on Star Wars Celebration, but big reasons we couldn't say hi to each other, although we did much nicely. So that was fun. So thank you now, so we can nerd out in an appropriate Star Wars way together virtually, unfortunately, once again, instead of in person. But
Someday.
Before we go, London, which actually, if anyone is on Twitter, they saw that they finally announced when tickets would go on sale, and it's June 30th. So holy crap, that's it didn't really
quick.
give us a lot of time. Yeah.
I'm still recovering from this year's
exactly.
Celebration.
Physically,
I just got
financially,
emails from my
mentally,
financially,
emotionally. I haven't even gotten I haven't even scheduled my therapy appointment yet to get over everything, and now I just have to get a new credit card so I can hopefully go to London.
No time to save money for this one at all.
No time. It's like these people. Jesus Christ. Anyway, but before we get going into all the fun stuff of Obi-Wan Kenobi and other topics for Star Wars, we want to make a small aside. Well, not a small aside, a big aside to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to us, is very important, not just to us personally, but also to us as citizens and for this country. And as anyone that listens to our podcast, we are very passionate about some of the issues that we are involved with. And in the last Friday, the very, very troubling news from the alleged Supreme Court came down, striking down Roe v. Wade, and basically making abortion illegal in over half of the country, which is an extremely troubling precedent, not just for people who can give birth, but also for the implications that the decision made for other landmark decisions from the Supreme Court that could potentially be stricken down, including like same-sex marriage. So we're trying to do our part, not just be active in what we're saying and what we're advocating for, but also being part of the Star Wars community, and the community that has given us so much, that also empowers us to have a platform, however small, but still a platform to talk about these things that we're passionate of. And so we have partnered with a bunch of other great Star Wars podcasters, including our guest today, Star Wars Explained, Alex and Mollie, with I forgot the name. Jesus Christ, this is embarrassing.
What choice?
Thank you. I don't know why I keep forgetting. But
it's not that complicated.
I know. It's a Monday. We're recording on Monday. I just came out of work. I'm exhausted. What Choice, a fundraiser, raising funds for the National Abortion Fund. So we will definitely be giving links down in the description below so that you can donate directly or go into any of the other wonderful fundraising opportunities that some of the other podcasters are doing currently. So please, 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 this is not just about abortion, it's about healthcare, it's about human rights. So please donate. And if you can't donate, if you're not able, please share it. Sharing also helps. So I don't know if Nelly or more or somebody wants to add something to that, because I feel like I'm rambling right now, but yeah.
Sharing is caring. If you can't donate, retweet it, post it on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok. Like the more people, the more eyes we can get on the GoFundMe page, the better.
And just shout out to Meg and Maggie and everyone that's organized this and put it together. Like, it's insane. It's 2 days old and it's over $40,000. That's insanity. So,
they reached out to us Friday night, I think. And then it got launched Saturday morning, and they were like, "Do you want to be a part of this?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, I do."
And it's $40,000 up to now, Monday when we're recording, we're gonna release this Wednesday. So hopefully $50,000 by then.
It's growing
if
so
not more.
fast. It's so
So-
good. Yeah.
They started with a goal of 5,000, and to
Yeah.
see it over 40,000 right now is insane. And it's amazing to see all these Star Wars content creators come together for something real. You know, we all talk about Star Wars and space and stuff, space wizards. But this is a very real thing, and it's great to see everybody kind of banding together.
Right. I think that's the important thing. And it's also very interesting because, like, at least to me, I don't know what your guys' perception has been of the Star Wars community post-celebration, but it's been kind of a roller coaster the last couple of weeks. The celebration was a big high of love and community, and all of a sudden like, it just came crashing down for some odd reason afterwards with all the vitriol online. And then it was people talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi somehow, which we'll get to. But then like now to when all of this happening, to kind of see everyone when it matters kind of coalesce and become allies, it kind of, you know, brings me back to one of the only good parts of The Rise of Skywalker, which is, you know, there are more of us, Poe. There are more of us. So again, please donate if you can. If you can't donate, please share that. But we will be obviously updating everyone through not just the podcast, but our socials, so that you can be a part of it to whatever extent you feel comfortable with. So thank you for your support if you've already donated, and thank you in advance if you are donating or will donate. That being said, let's get down to a little bit of Star Wars now, with a little show called Obi-Wan Kenobi, which unfortunately today being Wednesday would be a day that either we're waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning to watch it right when it comes out, or rushing home from work to see it immediately. And sadly, we're just going to have a normal Wednesday. And that's somehow, I mean,
there's still
to an extent, to an extent, because I kind of like sleeping in. So
I'm glad that my Wednesdays aren't going to start at the crack of dawn now, because we didn't stay up late and watch it, like, because on East Coast time it would have been 3 a.m. when it came out, so we would just get up at probably around 6 a.m. to watch it. And you know, I love Miss Marvel, but I'm not going to get up at 6 a.m. to watch it. I'll watch it.
We'll watch that at lunch or something.
I'll watch it later in the day.
Are you guys
and
caught
not
up
having
with
to
Miss
make any
Marvel?
content about Miss Marvel is nice. We can just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Are you guys caught up? Because I haven't been able to watch episode 3 yet. Okay,
it's such a great show.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I loved it more than Hawkeye. For me, Hawkeye's like, I don't know if that's a controversial opinion, but that's the bottom of the barrel. It's still a good barrel, don't get me wrong, but it's
a great barrel.
It's a barrel with padding on the bottom, so even if you're at the bottom, you're comfortable down there. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, I know Nani, myself, and Mo have talked about it ad nauseum, so we obviously will keep going with our opinions here, but we want to hear from you. Obviously, we've heard, I mean, I was listening to you guys over the weekend talking in your 20 question special, so I have a good idea what's going to happen here. So why don't we get your initial reactions of what you thought of the show now that it ended? Actually, no, scratch that. Let's get more spicy. What did you think of the show going into it? Why don't we start with you, Molly?
Okay, going into it. So when we watched it, the first 2 episodes, it was at Celebration. We were in a room full of our, you know, some of our closest Star Wars related friends. And so just the experience of getting to watch the first 2 episodes with all these other Star Wars people, like content creators, was really, really cool. But my first reactions to the show itself was just like, my jaw was on the floor. They opened with that like sick cut of all the prequel stuff, just kind of like getting you all caught up and putting you right into the feels immediately. Just like that was so well done, I think. And then finding out that Leia was going to be such a big part of this show. A lot of people kind of figured that was going to be the case, but I was not expecting to see so much of Alderaan, and like I just immediately fell in love with little Leia. So I was just beaming with joy after those first 2 episodes.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Alex?
I think struggled with it a little bit more, only because I was exhausted. I was so tired, and I was just like sitting on that couch, and there was like a little break where everyone was kind of recovering, refreshing drinks between the episodes, and I just like closed my eyes for a little bit. I definitely had to watch them again and like actually take it all in. I feel like I did this reaction where I was like, I liked it. I couldn't really tell you everything that happened in it, but definitely, yeah, like seeing Leia pop up was something that, yeah, we had kind of heard about, but I had I was like engrossed in the series and what was happening, so that when we saw Alderaan, I was like, holy cow, like it really took me by surprise. I also like Dayu a lot, so getting to see that second episode was fun, and they did so many things that I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Obi-Wan learn that Anakin was still alive and grapple with that on screen. It's like, maybe it's a little bit of a stretch to say that he hadn't heard that in 10 years, but whatever. He was literally living under a rock. And if there's a scenario where he learns it, I want to see it on screen, no matter what the time frame.
Right. I agree. It's one of those things, right, where it's just like people get so caught up on canon and continuity that they forget that that's not how real life works either, because even us in the world that we live in, and we're connected with social media and the internet and the news, sometimes we don't hear about what happened in something that we should be knowing about that's currently directly contemporary to us. So just like, so if you are literally living under a rock like Obi-Wan was, it makes sense that you didn't hear about something, especially when you're trying not to be found. So it's not a stretch of the imagination, I don't think, to realize that, Obi-Wan's he's not hip to the news currently. So very, very odd with the thing that people nitpick sometimes. But Mo, what about you? Going into the show, were you excited after seeing the trailer? Did the first episode meet your expectations, or were you guarded a little bit after parts 1 and 2?
I think I went in with like open expectations. I didn't want it to like be tainted. Like I was like, I hoped for a specific like, let's see if they explore the Force through like an Obi-Wan that's separated from everything. But I'm glad that wasn't the case. I'm glad they gave us completely different like story, and to me, like the best like scenes were like seeing Obi-Wan like working at the fish shop, like chopping the fish and like tucking away that little piece for like the creature. I forget their name, but you can still see, how is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Eope.
Eope.
Oh, right.
Well, exactly,
gotta get that for trivia, because otherwise.
No, but I think it sort of like tells you like a very intimate story of like Obi-Wan. Like, they've been like actively trying to disappear, like this, like a completely off the grid, and try not to get involved with anything that's like human related, or when I say human, it's like inclusive of like other
people
species, but seeing like that compassion of like, I'm still gonna like guard this little piece for my UP. I'm gonna, just doing it like he belongs. Like, and it sort of like shows like there's still like that, like under, like he still has like some self-esteem left down there. It just hasn't blossomed. It's just been like covered in all the sand and desert, and just like being able to resurface. And I think that I just love like that transition. And then I was not expecting at all Leia, and it was just like such a beautiful like. So I was like, I'm glad. I'm like, yes, like forget about Luke. Like finally,
he's fine. He's just sitting there.
He's just pretending he's flying.
Let him pretend.
Let him be an idiot. Yeah.
While Leia's bossing people around and getting interrogated.
Right.
And
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
That's the best thing of the last episode, honestly. It's just like everyone's just like, okay, Leia's gonna go into Senator Academy. She's gonna do the thing, and Bale's telling her we're gonna change the world together. And then also we flash back to Tatooine. She's like, let the boy be a boy. Just give him a toy and just
don't worry.
Don't worry.
He'll get all the respect just because of, like...
white privilege. He's gonna be fine.
So I'm glad they shifted that focus. And
Yeah.
if anything, it was since the beginning, it's been like moving art. That's what I like always like. All the episodes were like so beautiful in themselves that you can just, even if the story wasn't for some, you can just immerse in the landscape and everything that's going on around. So it was very, Star Wars, very sense.
Very much so. Yeah. And we'll get to the and how we get immersed into that world, because I think that's a big thing that was important to us in terms of like how that world felt, especially when we compare it to Mando season 1 and season 2 and the use of the volume. So we'll get to that. But Nani, how about you? I know you don't like to watch trailers.
No.
So did you make the effort to watch the trailer before going to parts 1 and 2? And if you did, how did that influence how you went into the show?
I'm pretty sure I only saw like first teaser that came out just so I would have a general idea of what it looked like, but then I completely ignored it. And I pretty much ignore social media in general anyway, because I do live under a rock most of the time. But
that's not true, because you tell me, oh, I saw your tweet, and I'm like, girl, if you see my tweet, just open your Twitter, put it on private.
But yeah, I had no idea what to expect. I was one of those people that had no idea that they were going to do Leia at all, or Alderaan at all. And then once she does pop up, was never expecting it for it to be so much of her, and for her to, even though she's 10 years old, to write her as so adult, and so clever, and exactly what you would expect her to be at that age, because we get Carrie Fisher's version at 19, and she's already more of a badass than all the boys around her, and she has to continually be saving them and all these things. So Leia to me was a revelation. And those first few episodes, I thought it was really good, because it felt to me at the beginning like a slow burn, just kind of like dragging you into the storyline, and then you feel immediately absorbed. Like they don't have to go wham bam showing lightsabers from the beginning. It's more than that. It's deeper. It really is about Obi-Wan's journey and how he becomes the Zen Obi-Wan that we eventually get in A New Hope and everything. And to see that develop through his relationships with Leia and everybody else, I thought was truly magic, really.
But did you feel that the show was a slow burn in parts 1 and 2?
At the beginning, yeah.
I
thought it was. Yeah.
It was just kicked into gear. We're getting off this rock.
I'm with Nani. I'm like, it felt, but I think it was like, now in retrospect, it feels like it's meant to be that way.
Yeah, because it's a little bit more introspective, just to see, what Obi-Wan's life has been like from, for the past 10 years. And there's you don't get a lot of dialogue at the beginning. And I've always been a fan of just storytelling without unnecessary dialogue. So, and then the soundtrack was so masterful that you convey so much emotion through it without having to like speak everything at your face. So I thought it was a slow burn, but not in a negative way, just in a positive way that just like kind of started dragging me into the drama of a character that, we've known since the 70s, but are, slowly but surely getting to know him through his younger selves in Clone Wars and the prequels and everything. So I thought
I really loved the whole slow burn aspect of it as
Yeah,
well.
I loved
At
it.
the end, he's getting off this planet, but in his mind, it's like, okay, quick little trip, go pick up Leia, no problem. And the idea that it just keeps snowballing into more and more problems. I really loved that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I want to get into little Leia real quick, because at least for me, she was like she came out of left field. I did not expect her at all, even though in retrospect, it's just like, well, this makes absolute sense why this would be the reason that he leaves the planet. But Alex or Molly, did you expect that it would be Leia, or did you think did you have any other theories about why Obi-Wan would leave Tatooine at this point?
I think I was expecting it to be Leia, because it was hard to think what else would make Obi-Wan leave Luke on Tatooine, and it's the other one, the more important one.
Agreed. Yes.
I mean, yeah, that's how I felt. And I had seen it's hard to be doing what we do without people just sending us rumors, which is frustrating. But someone sent that our way, and I was like, I wish I hadn't seen that. But also that makes so much sense. Because I was one of those people that I'm like, oh, I don't think I like the idea of Obi-Wan leaving Tatooine. Like, he has a mission to protect Luke, and that should be, and like, it's such an obvious idea that I'm like embarrassed I didn't think of it. Of like, well, Leia needs him too. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense.
Well, now an inverse on that though. We already got the show, so we know what it was about. But since we're still like in the early parts, right? I think we can do this. Did we have any expectations of what we thought the show should have been? Like, Molly, what did you think the show should have been before we got into it and we saw what it actually ended up being?
I mean, I think it should have been mostly Obi-Wan and Vader, because that's how it was marketed to us, you know, the final showdown. But all these other characters that were added, and we've talked a lot about the differences that they added or changed from taking this idea from a movie to a series, and like what things were added, what characters were added. Reva and Tala, and you know, all of these characters, the Inquisitors. I'm not sure that we would have gotten such cool stories from those characters if this had been a movie.
Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised by Reva, the Grand Inquisitor. You know, everybody wanted to talk about how silly his head looked, but he was like a breakout performance in my mind. I loved how like sassy he was. And just I hope we get to see him again at some point, because I was just like, I was shocked at how much I loved his character. But yeah, what I was expecting was mostly just Obi-Wan and Vader stuff, and then we got all this other cool stuff that, you know, some people would say is filler and we didn't need this or that, but it enriched the story in so many ways.
Nani, did you have any different expectations going into the show before knowing anything?
Again, no expectations. But I was so pleasantly surprised. Yeah. I was so pleasantly surprised by everything, honestly, because I wasn't expecting as much Vader Obi-Wan interaction, at least not to the depth of emotion that we saw. And then to have all these other characters and to see, you know, the path and all these, how they're trying to save the younglings that are left, and how to have a character like Tala who joined the Empire voluntarily, and to see how, you know, she saw the horrors of it and decided to take the other path, and then made the ultimate sacrifice because of it,
and had a romance with a droid.
Yes. And Reva was a revelation as well. I thought she was fantastic. It's so good to see, you know, what happens on the other side, because we know not everybody in the Empire is a bad guy, which we also got obviously with Finn's character, that, you know, not everybody in the Empire is a bad guy, and some people think they're doing good from the other side. And now we get Reva, who was, you know, a youngling, abused, terrified of Vader, and how she decided the way to honor the fallen younglings was to murder Vader, and then to kind of become him to get there, and how eventually she doesn't, you know, fulfill the path that she was on, but, you know, to see her journey there was, I think, really special. And it adds so much to a story that we only see from very key characters, and that's it. Now we're getting to see a story from other characters. There's only more than the Skywalker family, you know, in the galaxy. There's other characters around there that have their own lives, even though they are severely affected by the decisions of the Skywalker family, because, you know, it happens.
I love the fact that they have a character like Tala who, you know, she tells her story. She doesn't go into too much detail, but she says, you know, I was in the Empire and I took part in something terrible, and then I decided this has to stop. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to do this in a different way, and I got to do it for good reasons. And so having a character like that with Reva, it's like she's there to be like, this is still possible for you. Like, you can go from the bad side to the good side. You just got to get there. So I have high hopes for Reva's future, and I think she should take Tala's place in the path.
Yeah, I agree.
Which maybe, according to those alleged live action Jedi Fallen Order rumors, maybe she connects with Cal. I don't know how. I don't know how the timelines work, because I'm bad with numbers. But who knows? But what about you, Alex? Going into the show, before knowing anything and being in the show itself, what were your expectations of what you thought the show should have been?
I think it nailed what I was kind of hoping it would be, just in ways that surprised me. Just the idea that the Obi-Wan we saw in Revenge of the Sith isn't quite who we saw in A New Hope or in Star Wars Rebels. I didn't think he was going to be quite so broken. I like that they did that. Like I wasn't thinking that he would just basically not be a Jedi and not be connected to the Force. So I was surprised with how far they went in that direction. Pleasantly surprised. I really loved, like, I wanted to see Qui-Gon in it. Just kind of on a surface level, that would be neat. But the fact that he calls out to Qui-Gon early in episode 1 and doesn't get an answer, I was like, oh yeah, like that. I was like, he's going to show up.
Payoff.
Yeah, he's going to show up when he finds balance again. And so they really did everything that I thought that they should do. I would have been okay with it if they didn't do a lot of that stuff, but just the journey of seeing Obi-Wan become himself again, watching Ben Kenobi become Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think that's what I would have said I wanted from it to start, but I honestly feel like I was just trying to not think about it too much and not get those expectations.
And then get your hopes up and then
which to take a slight detour into fandom scope, I think it's the problem that a lot of fans have with a lot of these films and shows. It's just like they inject so much of like their expectations and their wants that like the non-fulfillment of them makes them not enjoy the storytelling on its own terms, which you're defeating yourself, bro, at that point, when you're just like just if it doesn't line up with what you want, then it's bad. That doesn't follow. So you just have to be open, and like we were saying, like in a couple of other episodes, when you speculate, just speculate responsibly and just acknowledge that you're probably going to be wrong, because our ideas are usually bad and the writers know what they're doing. But Mo, what were your expectations?
As long as you acknowledge, you can.
Yeah, it's like I have terrible ideas, and
my idea for Elan Sleaze Pagano to be in the show was great, and I'm
That's
furious
true.
It didn't happen.
That could have been good. That could have been good. And Dayu, like he just shows up and he's like, "Oh, you're that guy."
He's like a what are those called? Just like a speech. What am I trying to say? Like a motivational speaker. He's a motivational speaker now because Obi-Wan told him to go rethink his life. And so I was like, there's so many possibilities for that. That and Dex.
Just in the HoloNet, just talking, just being, a motivational guy, just in the background. Could have worked.
It could work.
It could. There's still a chance in season 2.
There's still time.
I don't think I went into with any expectations. I did have like my wants. Like when I heard it was gonna be like that confrontation between like Vader and Obi-Wan, I wanted to be more on like on a Force level. Like I wanted to see them like, meeting in some like Force astral plane and like
like in Hero, like the Jet Li movie where like the mental fights.
Like I wanted to see like, okay, so what does somebody that's completely hiding but still like active, like maybe like in the Force, like how are they like confronting each other? How are they like dealing with each other? Does Obi-Wan like had like any like way of like dissuade him, like intervening, or vice versa, that like Vader like torture Obi-Wan with like the Force like projection? So I was expecting something on that vein. I mean, not expecting, like I wanted something, but I'm glad we didn't get that. Like, it's okay. Like,
so I mean, that could have been cool, because then we could have gotten like the Darth Vader comic book thing where like when they're in that astral projection thing, Force, it's like that fiery version of Vader from the comics instead of like the armored thing. The live action stuff translated from animation, really cool, because that was my big want in the show. It's just like flashback Clone Wars armor. It's just like I want to see Hayden with the long hair and the Clone Wars armor, and Obi-Wan and do the thing, Commander Cody and everything. And I was like, that was just like, this is it. They're doing it. Why wouldn't they do it? Because this is the thing that everyone wants. And then they didn't. But I'm just like, okay, but what they gave us meant something to the story. So it's totally fine. I didn't get that armor. That's always season 2. But it's what matters is what it means to the story itself. And what they did was so powerful that it's kind of all the expectations like, okay, whatever. This doesn't matter, because what matters is what we got in terms of the development of all these characters. So speculate responsibly, I guess.
I do like how they handled the Force from like the beginning to the end of the show, specifically with Obi-Wan, because they showed how cut off from everything he was and how difficult it was for him to kind of get back into that. I liked that they showed him struggling there for a while. So like the two of them having interactions through the Force would have been cool, but I kind of like the idea that Obi-Wan was struggling to just get to that level, get back to that level of connection to the Force until he found balance towards the end.
Yeah, I like that about too. It makes him a much more believable and compelling character, because you know that we struggle. So, and then how from that struggle you have to get yourself back up, and how he could barely even use the Force. And the first time he lights the lightsaber is straight out of fear. He doesn't really know how to use it. He's straight up running away from Vader, even though he's like trying to get his attention so that Leia and everybody else can escape. But it's still terror on his face as he's running away. And then as slowly he starts to be able to use the Force, until obviously then we get him in the final episode. So it really makes it so much more believable. And how you see the choreographing of those lightsaber fights, how at first he's like really clumsy and doesn't really know what he's doing, and then you incorporate moves that he used to use in Clone Wars, and then more elegant moves from later on. So I thought it was really well thought out, and it just meant way more to the story than just, oh look, lightsaber fights, cool.
I also really like the way that, you know, I kind of compared this to a Rocky movie when we were halfway through, where, you know, he gets his butt kicked, then he has to come back and he'll win the second time around.
Right.
But
Training
I'm glad that there
montage.
wasn't. Yeah, but I'm glad there wasn't a training montage, because
Yeah,
it
I
wasn't
know.
about
That would have
like,
been too far. That would have taken it too far. But still.
He's just like doing force push-ups or something. I don't know.
Well, exactly.
How you do that?
Because that's not how the Force works. Like,
yeah,
he regained his strength because he just found a purpose again, and he was helping others again. He had overcome his fear. And I love that Vader's like, oh, your strength came back. Where 2 days earlier he was like, the time has made you weak or whatever. And it's like Obi-Wan didn't do anything except find himself again. And so I really like the way that they treated that, and they stopped the Rocky movie comparisons at that one point.
Yeah, I'm sure there were a lot of like Jim Bro fans out there that really wanted to see Obi-Wan just like lifting weights with the Force.
Yeah, probably shirtless, you know, just for extras.
Of course he has to be. It's like oh my god, it's like that fan poster that I saw for like the Uber Last Jedi poster with like Luke with the machine guns, just like totally ripped. That it was just like, okay, that's more about you than it says about for Star Wars, which is cool too, I guess. But before we keep going with the rest of the show, let's talk about like how the show actually looks, because that's one of the most impressive things for me about Obi-Wan Kenobi, was like how cinematic it felt. I mean, for me, it's just like I'm watching a movie. And to compare it with Mando, which gave me that same exact feeling when I saw season 1, to feel this with Obi-Wan again, it's kind of, to me, like shows like the progression of the technology of the volume, and like how they've learned to adapt to it and use it in the best way possible. Because I don't know about how you guys feel, and I want to obviously hear those opinions. But when I was watching Mando season 2, it kind of felt that they were using the volume in kind of a formulaic kind of way. It's like, here's the set, and the set's basically a corridor. We're going to film it from a couple different angles, but it still feels like it's in a corridor within a volume. And Obi-Wan just felt like a big sprawling world where you didn't really feel the edges of it. And it felt very free roaming and not constrained by the limits of the volume or the sets. So I was totally immersed in that world, like Mo was saying about how the show felt. But I wanna hear about from you, Alex. How did you feel about how the show looked?
I actually struggled with it a little more, but you said something right now that made me at least look at it from a different point of view. Where
Always.
I felt like I was noticing the limitations of the volume a little bit more, but you make a good point that they were very creative with it. Like I immediately thought of the shots of Reva parkouring across Dayu, where they're filming her from tons of different angles and they're moving the camera a lot more. And so maybe I felt it because they were just trying to keep it evolving, keep on innovating instead of I do feel like I felt it more when it was a wide shot, just kind of a static thing, like on Jabim, when they had like 20 stormtroopers there to come get Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it's like, there are production constraints. There are only so many people that can fit in that room during a pandemic. So,
but maybe that was a plot thing. Maybe they're like, oh, this is weak Obi-Wan, so it's just like we don't need as many stormtroopers anymore, and throw in the purge trooper just for additional security. So maybe that's story.
So, to me, I think I felt it a little bit, and weirdly, I didn't feel it so much in the earlier episodes, and I think maybe it was because it had that slower burn. It was just a more personal story. The more epic it got, the more I felt like, oh, they're being really ambitious with the volume, and I feel like I can just tell. I don't know what, like, I'm jealous of you that you're just like, you were all in all the time, and occasionally I would just be like, I couldn't turn that part of my brain off until I watched it a second time, and then I didn't care. But for whatever reason, that first time I'm like a little,
because I felt like I 100% felt like that, but with Mando season 2. That's when I had that disconnect. I'm just like, okay, well, they're doing the thing. I can tell. But with Obi-Wan, for me, I was just like, oh, completely different. So Molly, how about you? Which team are you on?
I think I'm somewhere in the middle. There were definitely some times where it was it was noticeable enough for me to be like, some of these shots felt like I was watching a really high production play. Because it was like you have like no more than 15 people on a stage with some like set pieces around it and just like a very vague background. It felt a little bit like a play, or like it made me think of Rise of the Resistance when we saw that group of stormtroopers. It felt like I was in that room for that ride in that moment. But places like Dayu, I thought it worked really well because like it's a big intricate cityscape, and I think those kinds of shots work better for the volume.
I should point out, like, I thought Dayu looked great. I feel like Jabin was my big sticking point. For whatever reason, it was just that planet, and it was so central to part 5 that something about it just didn't look quite right to me, and I can't even tell you what really.
And there was something else that was really weird.
It wasn't when they were in Southern California. That one.
I didn't like Mapuzo either. Mapuzo, I was just like, it's not the volume, but I know where you are. So I wasn't crazy about
I've been there.
We watched that episode again today, and when Leia says, "What is this place?" and I was like, "It's California."
You're in a mega truck right now.
Something else that kind of bugged me was there was like a lot of moments where the camera was really shaky.
Yes, and that bugged me a lot in that episode. Yeah. And then you couldn't see a lot of the action sometimes because it was shaking so much that you couldn't feel immersed in that battle, which was supposed to be a really important one. And I was like, hey, stop shaking it. Why are you doing that?
Yeah. And like you mentioned that could have been a way for them to hide the volume, make it a little less noticeable, to add some of the camera more like handheld.
Well, see, now I can't tell because I'm like, it could be like let's keep this shaky so we can't see the background as well. Or I'm like, it also could be, let's push the volume to its limits because the background shifts as the camera moves. So I'm like, maybe they were just trying to see how shaky can we get this, and still keep it believable. I don't know.
Yeah. But those are my kind of most of my big nitpicks. Again, like you said, it's a lot of times you find yourself looking for things to kind of pick apart. And the second time I watch it, I'm like, okay, I can just shut that part of my brain off and just enjoy this for the story, because, you know, when you're in our line of work, it's hard not to pick every piece apart from every scene. So
and also, like, I am totally a hypocrite sometimes where I was like fully into episode 4. I think I liked it more than most people, and Molly said something about the bad air speeders and how bad they looked, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, watching it again, I was like, I can
we'll
see
get to
that. but the first time I watched it didn't faze me at all. I was just in.
I thought they looked one. We'll get to it because I can't even right now. Mo, obviously you gave us a little preamble of like how you felt about the visuals of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but how did you feel overall? about them? We're picking teams right now, so answer wisely.
I'm gonna say, like, I'm glad my vision isn't great. You know, I can see from afar everything looks great. I cannot see if there's a volume or not. I have no idea.
The power of not being able to see.
The power of not being able to see. It looked great from my side. If there's the nitpicking, I'm not a fan of the de-aging thing. Like, it's still not there. Like, just
who did we
like...
de-age? Because in any case, we aged up somebody.
Yeah, if that
names.
scene with Anakin is supposed to be him at 19, he's
a very mature, very mature.
Rough
yeah,
19.
Yeah, he was out at Mos Eisley the night before. That's what happened to Hayden.
Yeah,
cut him some slack.
Yeah, everyone has a rough night. I just had a rough weekend, so it's fine. Nani, how about you? How did you feel about it?
I, especially in those first 2 episodes, and especially because we've seen Tatooine so many times and in like so many different media and everything. That's why I also enjoyed the like meat packing district, whatever, where carcass that
fish packing.
Yeah, that Obi-Wan was working. It felt in that moment really, really expansive. For the first time, Tatooine for me felt like a whole thing, not just like Mos Eisley and like the farm where Luke grew up, and it's like way more. Obviously, we get more in.
Don't forget Mos Pelgo. Come on.
Yeah, and we get a lot of it in Mando and everything, but Mando has that problem sometimes with like the hallway looking thing as well. But in this one, I don't know, they did some aerial shots and things that really made it feel very immersive and expansive. And Dayu, I thought, was also amazing and very intricate in details and everything. I think the scenery also for the final confrontation in part 6 was because it was so stark and you don't really need anything except for like the pillars and using their own lightsabers for lighting. So it felt, I don't know, it felt very grand in some moments. And yeah, sometimes when it's a lot of people crammed into one place, it didn't feel as real, but I don't know. I thought it was great anyway. I'd be like, oh, it's so good. I don't care. I was like laughing the entire time. A lot of things made me cry. I was just like into this show way more than I ever expected to be. So I can't complain about it too much, really.
Part 4, I think, was a difficult episode for a lot of people. So let's talk about that one a little bit. We have part 4 was Fortress Inquisitorius, right? Okay, yes. Thank you. Bad with numbers. Thank you. We got Fortress Inquisitorius, so we got the Jedi Fallen Order level, and I mean, I think it was a fantastic episode. I really liked it, but obviously, based on the previous episode where we had that showdown with Vader, and we got lightsaber duels and everything. For some people, I'm not gonna name names, but they're on the screen next to me. It seemed like an underwhelming change of pace after we just got Vader in his full heavy metal horror movie mode to just kind of have a rescue mission. So since I think that's been technically the most controversial episode, I mean for some people the whole series is controversial, but for everyone else this was like the one episode I think most people had gripes with. So before we get into the speeders, why don't we see what everyone else thought about like how this episode transitions from part 3 and how it's springboarded right into like 5 and 6. So Molly, let's start with you, I guess. What did you think of part 4?
I just recently actually played Fallen Order, which I loved. And so getting to kind of have a whole episode in Fortress Inquisitorius was really cool for me because I'm still kind of riding high off of the game. And I was like, this is so cool. But yeah, the way you explained it, like it's just like a random rescue mission kind of in the middle of this series. And yeah, after having just seen Vader just be badass and be Vader, we're kind of taking a step down with the Inquisitors. But I liked most everything about the episode, and we don't have to go too far into the speeders, but the speeders just like felt like they looked just a little out of place. Like it was almost like unfinished CG. I don't know. Maybe that was just me because like you said that you didn't notice it,
I do now.
It's just the one shot of them kind of like coming down and going into
Maybe I need to rewatch it. Because for me, it's just
the area.
Speeders.
But I love
all in.
I love Obi-Wan having to like hold the cracked window with the Force and, you know, protect just any hallway scenes in Star Wars are always really cool.
Yeah.
I wish we had gotten to see the Purge Troopers do more.
They didn't do a lot of purging. They
didn't do any purging, really.
Not a single purge.
No, they didn't even turn on an electro staff or anything.
Yeah, they didn't do anything a regular stormtrooper couldn't have done. So I was kind of like, interesting choice for that, but okay. But yeah, no, I loved the episode.
Could talk into like the empire inefficiency, the bureaucracy. It's like, you know what? I'm not getting paid to get
I was not trained enough for this.
I'm not gonna push
I'm still an entry-level purge trooper. This is beyond my capabilities. But Alex, how about you? I know you're passionate about Fallen Order and I know you're passionate about Purge Troopers. So how did part 4 make you feel?
Yeah, Fallen Order is one of my favorite Star Wars things, period. So I was just having a ball going to Fortress Inquisitorius. I didn't mind all of the repeated story beats. Like I was just like, oh, he's breaking in the same way Cal did. Neat. And some people didn't like that. We still did the crack in the window, like you said, but I don't know. I thought they used everything really, really well. I've even defended the hiding Leia in the trench coat thing.
Yeah, that was the least of my concerns. Yeah,
I hope that.
Yeah, so a lot of people had stuff to say about that, and I was like, I think it's great.
I need that as a Black Series figure, just the two of them in the trench coat.
Wow,
oh my God,
that would be amazing.
The addition of the tomb at the bottom was terrible, but also, you know, in a cool way. Getting to see learn a little bit more about the fortress. So yeah, I was just having fun with it. I do think that this may have been an episode, a story beat that was added after it became a series and not a movie, because it is like okay, let's just kidnap Leia again, I guess, and then quickly resolve that. Vader's not really in the story. It does feel a little out of place. And I feel like that's just okay, let's stretch this out a little bit longer. We'll find something cool to do. We'll bring in all the Fallen Order things. That's just my speculation.
I didn't even
went down.
I didn't even talk about how much I loved all the scenes with Reva and Leia and the way that like a lot of Reva's dialogue to her was almost like she's talking about herself and like her younger self and everything she's been through. So I loved all of that dialogue between the two of them.
The braver you act, the more afraid you are. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was the cool thing about that episode to me. I mean, because I'm not gonna lie, like the first time I saw it, I was kind of like a little disappointed because I was expecting the bombast. I was expecting this series to keep going up and up and up. But after finishing it, it's like, okay, wait. Sometimes the story needs to pump the brakes and become a little more personal and be about the internal struggles as opposed to like the outward struggle. And for me, that whole rewatching the episode and seeing the whole sequences where everybody, especially being in Fortress Inquisitorius, you're underwater and like this temple / cave / maze, whatever you want to call it. Well, it's a maze for Obi-Wan, right? Because he doesn't know where the hell he's going. So he's really finding himself, not finding Leia. So I think that episode is really important for all of the characters because they are in that moment finding what their actual calling in the series is. So it's kind of the springboard to the end of the series, to part 5, and ultimately the final confrontation in part 6. So there's a lot of depth, and not depth because they're underwater, but depth in terms of like the I saw a pun.
You
I
had to.
Okay. I did, even though I was going to say no pun intended, but I was totally intended. It's totally. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love dad jokes. So yeah, so I feel the episode, as slow as it can be, it's still a lot of fun, but it's extremely pivotal to how the characters get to the positions that they are by the end of the show. I love Fallen Order too, and I did like the symmetry and a lot of things, but I don't know. I had some issues with it being so symmetrical sometimes, but that's a nitpick, and it doesn't detract from the story because most people haven't played the game. So when they see the show, they're not thinking about, oh, this is the same thing as the other thing. They're just thinking, oh, this is a cool thing I haven't seen. So it's
I
fine.
think that's the struggle of being a diehard Star Wars fan is that
Yeah.
you see some stuff again and
Yeah.
again. We see it in the finale with Star Wars Rebels, and I was just like, oh, they're
Yeah.
doing that again. Like, I'm
Yeah.
glad it's happening in live action, but
Right,
I have seen
but-
this before.
Well, this
So-
episode is also like really important for just a important part for Obi-Wan's story specifically, because in that moment in that hallway scene, you see him getting a little more comfortable with the
Mhm.
lightsaber. He does a
Mhm.
little twirl with it,
Mhm.
like he's getting there, and you can see the wheels turning in his head, and that's important to see too, just like part of his journey.
Right.
Like the getting back on the bicycle scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, it's like you start remembering, and he's not doing it like on a scared way. He's just like more confident. I'm just here saving and like going through this.
Vader kicked him off the bike in the last
Oh.
episode, and now he's
Hard.
getting back up there.
He kicked him, drove
Off
over the
the-
bike, and then put the reverse and ran over the bike.
And then
So-
kicked him off the mountain and burned him.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I'm glad Obi found an Imperial divvy for just Inquisitors that he could get back on. Nani, how about you? Because I know when we talked about part 4, you were kind of like an anti part 4, but have you
Well, yeah,
turned
you know,
around? Have we changed your mind?
I mean, it is hard because you do come up that high from part 3, which you're so excited to see more of this happening. So when I first saw part 4, I was like, that was kind of boring. I didn't really need this episode. But even when we first started talking about it and doing the comparisons, how about they're kind of trying to mirror, you know, the films, and there is a lot about that episode that feels A New Hope, and then you start to appreciate it more and more, and the acting in it is so fantastic. Like Molly was saying, that those interactions between Reva and Leia are just so well done. Like you can see the depth of character there, and that's when, even though we already knew, you know, from the subtitles of episode part 1 that Reva was a youngling and everything, but here's where you start to realize that it's true, that she really is feeling that pain and she's seeing herself in Leia. And it looks gorgeous, obviously, the episode. There's still a lot of things like the tomb. You get really interested in it, but then they kind of just leave it there and they don't really go into it. So you're like, oh, what was the point of adding it? And
Because they're going to follow it up on the Afra comics. That's why.
Ooh.
And sometimes I felt like the infiltration parts were, you didn't feel as much tension as you should if you're, you know, like infiltrating this place. It's like there weren't enough stormtroopers and they weren't doing enough. And I don't think you feel enough of a threat with it. So
It was their lunch break.
when you're playing a game, you're freaking
Jesus.
out because you're going stealth mode and you're like, oh, what's around the corner and blah, blah, blah. So you didn't really get that sense of tension from the episode. But I do love what it does for Obi-Wan, because it's not only that the hallway scene, it's, you know, the first time that he turns on the lightsaber because he wants to, not just out of fear, and it's, you know, to protect Leia. And even though it's super cliche, that moment when they turn off all the lights and then you see the lightsaber turn on, it's like, yes, I love that. That's very
It's
fun.
a cliche
Thank
if
you
it's
for
cool,
that.
though.
Yeah. So it's still probably my least favorite of all of them, but I mean, the whole series is so good that, you know, one part that is my least favorite is not saying that much. So, and as a whole, it works into the story at this point. It makes sense to not have any of that if it was a film, but if you are trying to extend a little bit, it's not a bad choice. I think there could have been different things they could have done though, but that's just me. I'm not a writer or a creator.
Mo, what about you?
I liked it. If anything, they could have added a little bit more, like that beginning scene when you see like both sort of on like the back to tank Vader and
Oh
wait,
yeah,
am I
'cause
talking
that
about
scene
the
was
right
amazing.
episode? I think
And everyone
there's-
was just like flashback time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
Jinx.
Book of Boba Fett's a different
Like-
show. It's
Nope.
different.
but even if they could just like extended that, like that connection, like going back into like, oh, we're connected, like we're brothers, like this, and we're feeling actually like it would have been very interesting. But all in all, like I loved like the whole like the interrogation between like Leia and Reva. That was just like it mirrored not only A New Hope, but also like it mirrored The Force Awakens as well. Like the whole
Yeah.
like, and you can see like the beginning of Leia being part of the Force and being strong enough to withstand like Riva, and like just being nonchalant about it, like, oh, are we doing like a staring contest, and like like still having like that ability to like take over and like handle the situation. And so it's like we see the foundations of Leia that we see later on, not only as and like Princess Leia, but also as General Leia. Like it's like we see like all of the beginning of everything that's there in that those episodes. And I think it's fundamental because it also, and I might be wrong, but it's that episode where Leia like grabs Obi-Wan's hand at the end.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's not only so touching, like made me cry, but it's the moment of like rekindling the hope in Obi-Wan. It's like there's trust, there's faith between each other, and they're there on that journey. And that's like the moment where they both realize like, hey, I trust you and you trust me. And I think that's like what Nani was saying, is so pivotal for the rest of the story, because then that's the payoff we see in the last episode when Obi-Wan is being buried down, and what brings back Obi-Wan's hope is remembering, oh wait, I'm here fighting not for myself or for my failures with Anakin, but which is the past. It's like I'm doing this for the future generation, for the hope, and like Ghost, and it's like that moment when it all connects for Obi-Wan. So I think that's also like the pivotal moment for the story and Obi-Wan's journey. So hey, it's good to come down from an epic like fight, and
we got to rest.
There's a valley. There has to be a valley.
We need ebbs and flows in a TV series like this.
But what's the consensus? I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because I know there's a lot of discourse about that specific scene that you were talking about, Mo, with Reva and little Leia. Was Leia using the Force, or was the Force dormant when she was just blocking Reva out of her mind? What does everyone think? I'm just going to leave that open to everybody.
I think she's just strong-minded.
Yeah. I don't think she was using the Force, because I would think that Reva could have sensed that in a way, but she just says like you're strong. And Leia, even from a very young age, is a very strong-willed, so I'm not surprised that she could just kind of block that out.
And it still makes sense in terms of canon, because Jabba the Hutt wasn't susceptible to a mind trick. Doesn't mean he was using the Force, so doesn't mean that Leia was either. Okay, so canon is safe. We're not breaking continuity here. So parts 5 and 6 leading to like our epic crescendo of battles. First, we have like our Force battle with Reva and Darth Vader, where Darth Vader's just having the time of his life, just doing like the Force ballet with Reva and doing his Force Unleashed moment, bringing down the transport ship, which was epic, despite like the scene maybe looking a little too small for some. So. What did we think about that payoff, like at the end of that episode, with the flashbacks, right? And then like that battle at the end with Reva. Mollie, why don't we start with you? What do you think of part 5?
I loved the fight between Vader and Reva. Just the fact that he doesn't even take out his own lightsaber. Yeah. He's just toying with her the whole time and sitting there like, I'll let you tire yourself out. And just like, even once he gets her lightsaber, he snaps it in half and gives. So he's like, let's go, let's keep going with this. Like, this is easy for me. So I loved just how he handled fighting with her, and then the Vader pulling down the ship was so cool to see. And it makes sense because he's not going straight in there and looking for any surprises. He's just like very straight-minded. Like, I see the ship. I can handle the Force pretty well. I'm just going to stop it from leaving. And then when he notices the other ship take off,
he's like,
after having just used up a lot of Force power to pull the ship down and rip it open like the dramatic queen that he is.
He is a queen. That's very true.
Like, Just and there's no look on his face exactly, but you just see the helmet.
But you know behind the face.
like,
Like,
look, and he's just like, son of a.
He's like, thank God there are no stormtroopers around to tell the Emperor, because I would be so fired.
Right. Yeah, no, I would think that he might take them out because he's like, no one can see this. I just got tricked and I don't like it.
No witnesses.
No, yeah. Oh my God. Poor Vader. Sometimes he's like, dude, you need to catch a break sometimes.
He never wins.
No. And that's the point. Evil never wins. No matter how cool you look. But Alex, how was part 5 for you? How was we haven't talked about the flashbacks. Okay, we'll talk about that like afterwards. But how was that whole dynamic of Vader just fighting Reva, just using the Force, and obviously the pulling down of the freighter ship, not the freighter ship, the transport ship.
Well, like you said about the flashbacks, I loved that they actually meant something. I didn't really care at all about the de-aging.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I totally agree. He doesn't look 19. Like, whatever. It's Hayden Christensen. I get it. So it was fun to see them interacting, and just the way that it paralleled both Obi-Wan and Vader in the future was fantastic. So that was probably my favorite aspect of that episode. I do really like Reva's duel as well, though, because it just showed how outclassed not just she is, but like all of the Inquisitors. They were former Jedi. They weren't the best of the best. They were just the ones that were willing to go dark side. And so they have like these lightsabers that have double blades and they can spin, and it's like trying to level the playing field so they can hunt Jedi. And her trying everything to get to Vader, where it's like, all right, one blade's not working, 2 blades, let's try that, and that's not working, let me start spinning it. Like, no, that doesn't work either.
Spinning, that's a good trick. And Vader's like, girl, I know that girl,
I
trick.
like, please,
I was there first.
And again,
did we want to? Yeah, sorry. Keep
well, because it was like Molly was saying, it's like without even giving her like the respect of unleashing his own lightsaber. It's like, dude, I don't even need my own lightsaber. I can use everything else against you. I mean, from the moment that you see her like sneaking up behind him, I was like, oh no, girl, don't do that. That is the worst possible idea you could ever had.
I just immediately think like Arrested Development. It's just like, I immediately regret this decision.
A huge mistake.
Yeah.
But it was so good. I mean, and it was visually, it was so gorgeous. And then the soundtrack as well. Like every time Vader used the Force, it was like so impactful. Like you could feel it. And I mean, I feel like that's how I always wanted to see Yoda fight, just using the Force. The whole him jumping around really disappointed me when they first showed it. And then this is what I imagine. And when you see that Vader's just throughout half the fight, he doesn't even use a lightsaber at all, just straight up the Force. Without even like, he's not making any effort, like dodge a little bit to the side, and it was so good. It's like, oh my God, he's gonna kick everybody's ass.
He was definitely like, okay, this is what I needed right after that fail. I needed that W on my column, because oh my God, that was really embarrassing.
Kind of gave me vibes of the Matrix when Morpheus and Neo are just fighting, and Morpheus is just like, he's like, dodge, like, come on, please hit me.
I'm not even sweating here. Hello.
Like the it was almost like a dance. Like, I'm just like practicing my steps here, like just stretching.
I'm a little rusty. Let's spar
I'm a little
for a
rusty,
little bit.
like
I forgot to stretch this morning, so I might as well now.
Like but we've all talked like how wonderful that fight was, but I feel bad for Reva, because Obi-Wan told her, I'm gonna help you, we're gonna do this together, and the first thing he does, it's like bye, let's keep touch here, let's get out of town.
I do think it feels that way. I'm choosing to interpret it that she knew what the deal was. And shouldn't just like run up while he was still pulling the shit
That's
down.
That's like ghosting somebody and then being like, she knew I was dumping her. Like, no, you ghosted her, bro.
No, but I honestly think she never agreed to the plan. She never said that she wanted to join Obi-Wan. No, she said she could do it. She kind of
let him go into the tunnel. So
right, but she said she didn't need any help.
That's kind of silent consent to an extent.
maybe
I don't know.
Obi-Wan knew deep down that like she's been seething this whole time wanting to hunt Vader. She needs to have this particular confrontation, and maybe that will push her in the right direction when she realizes that this is all for
outclassed.
nothing.
Yeah. Like, your dreams of revenge will not end well. You will not sleep well this night.
But I would withhold that information from you.
Exactly. Like sometimes you gotta find out for yourself. But let's talk about the flashback, because I think that was the thing that everyone was kind of like expecting and hoping for. And by the time that part 5 came by, I think some of us were thinking like, wait, maybe this won't happen. So did you guys expect that we were gonna get like a flashback, or do you think that would have been just an added bonus to the show? Alex, let's start with you. What do you think about flashbacks going into the show, and what did you think when we got into part 5 when we got it?
I was definitely hoping to see some flashbacks. Like you, I wanted that Clone Wars armor. It's okay that we didn't get it, I guess.
Yes.
But
I guess I have my action figure. It looks just like it. It's fine.
We'll get it in Ahsoka. Fingers crossed.
I was kind of just like waiting, and
yes,
I was going to be okay if we didn't get any flashbacks. But then, when they showed us Coruscant at the opening of that episode, I was not thinking it was a flashback until they pulled back.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, what are we going to see on Coruscant?
Saw that ponytail.
Yeah, little braids,
like,
ponytail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am really happy with the way they did it. I didn't want too many flashbacks because Book of Boba Fett just did that so much. So I was like, I don't want them to go overboard here. But I think one episode full of like flashbacks that were all one scene and one teaching moment, I'm like, I'm happy with that.
Molly, what about you?
Yeah, I got super excited, like most people did when they pulled that camera back and we see Anakin with this little ponytail in his braid. And the fact that he didn't look de-aged enough and he didn't look 19, it bothered me for like a split second, but I was just like, nope, just forget about that. Like, enjoy the moment. There's going to be some really good story here. And I love that they picked a training moment for the two of them, like a sparring kind of training moment, because it explains their entire relationship kind of, and like why Vader fails all the time, because he's just all about power. And so I loved to see the mirroring of that flashback, and then the final fight. It just like worked so perfectly.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta say, with the whole, I mean, I know it's a tired joke at this point, but with the whole Hayden looking his age at alleged 19, it just reminded me of Wet Hot American Summer. She's got like these supposed teenagers, and they look like they're 77 years old.
Yeah,
and that's part of the joke. And I'm just like, that's how I dealt with it. I'm just like, it's supposed to be funny. Just accept it, let it go, and enjoy the ride, because it just made it that much more funnier to me to think that Lucasfilm was just like, you know what, screw it, just let's go with it, because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. We gave them digital deep fake Luke Skywalker, and they're gonna complain. Let's just give them all the man young Hayden and see what happens.
I like the idea that Hayden was like, I don't care.
I look great for my age.
I look 19.
I look fine. I look great. And they're like, you're right. You're absolutely right.
You're right. Yeah. I've got a little Botox done. Like, I've got a little fillers. It's like not enough.
He watches the episode and he's like, nailed it. 19.
Yeah, it's like, look at that.
19.
Let me just play Attack of the Clones again. No, and his voice too. Like his voice, he sounded like a man, like in that clip. And I was rewatching Attack of the Clones, and I'm like, voice little different. I'm glad they didn't use the re-speech AI thing, because it's just like, let's just let actors be actors. But yeah, it's funny. It didn't take me out of the moment. It's just fun to make fun of him a little bit. But he nailed it though. Like the portrayal was great. So I was just so happy to see Hayden be able to come back into Star Wars and be able to be it from a place of positivity, and like have the fandom embrace him and be able to just knock it out of the park with an awesome performance, both as Vader but also as Anakin. It's like the best time to be a Star Wars fan at this point, jokes notwithstanding. But that's what life is. We're just gotta have fun a little bit with these things. Nani, how about you? What do you think of flashbacks?
At that point, I really didn't think we were going to get one, honestly. But I'm so happy. And especially because it just started that way. And then you're just like, so you're smiling throughout the entire episode. It like, oh, yay, it happened. And it's so good. But yeah, the fact that it mirrored so well what's going on and how you can see the depth of understanding that Obi-Wan has for Anakin and how he basically has not changed at all. There's been no growth. He's the exact same person. And how he's defeated just because Obi-Wan knows him. That's it. That's the only reason he was defeated so easily, is because Obi-Wan was anticipating every single move he was going to make, which makes so much more sense to the fact that you haven't learned anything. Like, you calling yourself a master and everything, but you haven't evolved at all whatsoever in the past 10 years. You have stagnated, my man. You are incredibly powerful, but you're still going to lose because you're so consumed with anger that you don't even take a pause to think about what you're doing. I mean, you're already connected to Obi-Wan. If you would have paused before destroying that transporter, you probably would have sensed that he wasn't in that one, just for a pause, you know? So I think it was a huge slap in the face that in one episode, you see how incredibly powerful he is, but how incredibly powerless he is against his own nature. So I thought it was really well done.
Mo?
Oh, the de-aging aside.
Stop.
I thought it was like one of the, like, you saw like the seeds of like Vader and like this Anakin, like you can, like, it was a battle where you can feel the tension. Like, I know Anakin wasn't gonna kill Obi-Wan, but I still felt like scared for Obi-Wan. I was like, wait, this like, this kid is aiming to kill. Like, this is not like just your typical like sparring and like training montage. Like if you know, if Obi-Wan had slipped, like, there would have been
they weren't using no training lightsabers.
There was no like, and you can, and maybe that's why they didn't go for the de-age. And you can see like the good acting that Hayden like still brings, like, and like having like that, you know, anxiousness of something, you know, it's not gonna happen. Yet you can, it's like a pulls the tension. Like, that's great acting. And it parallels so well with like what Nani was saying. Like, you know, there's no change. Like, this character has just been stagnated and stuck in the past for so long that it just destroyed this person completely and consumed him. Like, and that's what we see him since the beginning. Like, he's just been being consumed by himself, like his own nature. So it is sad.
That was a great touch, though, to your point of like the fight being fierce. It's actually seeing fear in Obi-Wan's face, because Obi-Wan's like scared a couple of times where he's like, oh crap. He's like, oh, I did not stretch for this. So like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
I love the moment where he's kind of like Anakin's kind of hovering over him and he's just kind of like beating down, and it's very reminiscent of Luke in Return of the Jedi, just like beating Vader down, and that anger, it's getting to you. It got to him at that point, and Obi-Wan's like, what the heck, man?
Dude.
Yeah, it's just like, bro, it's like,
chill out.
I go like, bro, like,
it's like, I'm gonna tell Mace Windu, okay? And that does not end well for him.
You know, Mace already doesn't like you.
Exactly. So watch out. I just got an appointment to be on the council, so watch it. More respect. Part 6, though, like, I mean, there's not a lot to like talk about that episode because nothing really happened in part 6. So it was a very boring way to finish the show. So why don't we start with you, Molly? What do you think of part 6? Do you think it was what do you think, one, it was the fight of the century? And then putting that aside, do you think that the series concluded in a satisfactory manner?
I don't know what I was expecting for as far as like the fight of the century and them saying, you know, it's the rematch of the century, because the lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin in Revenge of the Sith is like, it's 30 minutes long. It's so over the top. There's a lot of
it's the Battle of Helm's Deep in Star Wars, basically.
Yeah. And then
they swing from cables too. I mean,
and then we see the fight between Vader and Obi-Wan in A New Hope, and that one's very very chill, you know, not a lot of fancy moves. They're old at this point. They can't be flipping and stuff. So
No.
I thought it was a nice kind of like meeting in between moment. And I thought the fight worked really well, especially with, all the stuff we said about the training montage mirroring it. I like that, there was a moment where we thought Obi-Wan was down, like he was down, he was buried.
In the low ground.
Yeah. And we got to see him think about, like we talked about earlier, like, why am I doing this? And just like get that extra boost from thinking about Leia and Luke and just his purpose and all of this, and getting to see him kind of come back from all of that and fight Vader. And like I wanted, going into the finale, I wanted them to talk more than fight. I wanted them to have the conversation, but it's kind of like at this point, Obi-Wan knows he can't get through to Vader.
Yeah.
He's like, he tells him, you didn't kill Anakin, I did. And that's when Obi-Wan's like,
So
okay,
good.
Yeah.
I tried, I did what I could. There's no getting through to him at this point. Like, see you later, Darth.
Yeah.
Later, Gators.
Yeah. So I thought all of that played out really, really well. And just getting to see the mask ripped open. We saw it in Rebels, but seeing it in live action, seeing Hayden under there with all the makeup, it worked so well. The voice blending between
So
Hayden's
good.
voice and Vader's sounding voice, just it worked really, really well for me. I was pleasantly surprised.
One day I'm gonna need to see like some fan do some edit. Maybe Matt Latner will volunteer, but like have like all three Anakins. James Earl Jones, not Anakin, but have James Earl Jones, Matt Latner, and then like Hayden have all three of their voices combined for that scene. So they have like the amalgam of Darth Vader, and the ultimate mixing of voices. But Alex, what did you think?
Yeah, I think everything that happened in the duel, I really loved. Some of the direction, I wish it were a little closer, less shaky, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But whatever. That's like the nitpick. Because I was just having a blast watching that. I again, my favorite part of the duel is Kenobi being buried, much like his lightsaber was at the beginning of the series, and then him digging himself out. I thought that part was great. And then to see him come out, and he is full on prequel Kenobi with all the twirls and the spins, and he's using those moves. The crack in the mask was of course awesome. One of our friends pointed out, that kind of smile that Anakin gives off when he's like, I killed, and then it's like, you never really think about Darth Vader smiling behind that mask, but
he is,
and that makes things even worse when you think about some of the stuff that he's done. That if he's just like smiling back there and having the time of his life,
he's pure evil at this point.
So I thought that they did a really solid lightsaber duel that meant a lot, that didn't go overboard in its prequelness. It still had a runtime. They're like, we're not gonna top Revenge of the Sith. Let's just do a solid fight.
I did notice that like there were, the one thing that I loved that they did with Vader in this fight, they had him use both hands with his lightsaber. He normally just holds it with the one hand in most of his lightsaber fights, but here he was like, Daddy needs two hands for this one.
And you see him like they really kind of focus on it.
This ain't Reva. It's like I got my work cut out for me. But I think that was a good thing, to your point, Alex, about like the fight not being as showy as the prequels, because that, at least because I'm not the biggest fan of the Revenge of the Sith fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin, not because the fight in of itself sucks, but because like to me it just felt choreographed, if you know what I mean. It felt like a dance. It's like, okay, we're doing moves as opposed to we're fighting. Obviously, like these fights are choreographed, but there's a element of visceral action, and like the fight feels raw, so it doesn't feel like it's actually choreographed. It feels like they're actually fighting, which, despite it being like more twirly and stuff, when you compare it to like Empire or Return of the Jedi, it still feels a lot more grounded, but in a more flashy way that for me works a lot better than most of the, I mean, Phantom Menace is the exception, but like the fights in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith didn't work as well for me in that regard. But Nani, what did you think of the rematch of the century?
Yeah, no, I loved it, actually. I was, when they said it was going to be the rematch of the century, I was expecting them to do something like a little ridiculous, and I'm glad that they didn't go in that direction because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really compelling. I'm not going to repeat everything that everybody said because I agree. I think that the other thing that was really important was the devastation on Obi-Wan's face when he realizes that he might have won the duel, but he's lost his friend and brother forever, and there's just no bringing him back. And it's so well acted, and you feel it so much that, you know, and you know, when Molly said as a joke when he leaves, you know, to check it, Darth. But I mean, it's the first time he's been calling him Anakin this whole time, and that's the first time that he really fully let go of him when he just calls him Darth, like he does in A New Hope. So there was a lot going on in that one fight that didn't have to be so long, and you get so much with so little lines happening, and just all told through their motions and the lightsabers and the lighting that they used. And I thought it was better than I was expecting, in all honesty. So
Mo, it's your turn.
I mean, lightsabers have never looked better, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
On any Star Wars media. And it to me was just like, I think just gonna repeat what the word we used, like it was just like a raw emotion, like it was raw in every sense. And I still like just remembering like what you're saying, like that crack on like smiling Vader, like I killed him, like it just brings chills. It's like this is the truth, like this is the evil, like that's why Vader is like probably like top 10 on the 100 list of most evil characters. Like that's
top three. Come on.
I don't know the ranking, but there's like a ranking on like things. But,
yeah, but especially if he's doing it while laughing now, that is just terrifying. That is just horrifying.
Now we know that he's smiling half the time back there, and it's like,
like it's just chilling, like to the bone. And but the whole play on like the lightning of like the sabers and like how it looked on their faces, and like the whole play of like what's like when it's like light side, when there's like the dark side, and like everything, it's like it's so beautiful. Like it's like the whole microphone, you're just showing what's happening, you're showing the emotions, and it's so raw and vulnerable. Like it's beautiful in its whole sense. Like I there's no other way to like explain it. Like, and then to see like the inverse of like, like you see like it's the inverse of like Return of the Jedi, like Vader going completely deep into the dark side. It's not a redemption. It's like, I'm embracing this, like this is what I've chosen. This is like and Obi-Wan being like completely brokenhearted. That's like I'm losing somebody I love, like right in front of my eyes, like, and there's no hope for them, or at least, you know, at that moment he doesn't see any hope. Like, and it's also devastating. But then like to refocus and then, you know, mirror that with like Reva and like not going to the dark side, being the other way around, like I'm not like I can't do it. And then Obi-Wan being like, now you're free, like now we're both free, because Obi-Wan got free from that, you know, expectation that he had failed and wanted to redeem Anakin, and you know, accepting he can't, and vice versa. You know, Reva wanted to revenge and destroy Anakin. None of them did what they set out to do, but both of them were free from that expectation. I think that's just like
I'm dropping the mic here. Hey, I don't even know how to follow that up. So I'm gonna follow it up by switching topics. On Peru, before we get to the final part of the episode, let's talk about Aunt Peru, who is the unsung hero of this series. I think it was Blast Points that did like the Peru crew logo, and I was just like, yes, because she was a total queen. She was a badass. She really, really whipped Owen into gear. Because he's just like, we got to run. She's like, no, I got some guns hidden up in here. There's some rifles hidden in the wall. You're going to stay here and you're going to fight. So I was just like, hey, respect to Aunt Beru. Because she was always the aunt, but now she's the queen. So I want to see how everyone felt with not just Aunt Beru, but that scene in particular with like how they had to defend the Lars homestead. So again, Alex, let's start with you. What do you think of Beru, our new Star Wars queen?
Well, I love everyone kind of speculating now that when you see their fate in episode 4, it's like, that pit behind them is full of stormtroopers. Like
bodies.
Oh yeah.
They put up a fight.
Yeah. They had
that was
to be disintegrated. They were like,
that was
no
a Battlefront 2
them.
fight right there. Yeah.
The finally the Purge troopers showed up.
Yeah, the Purge troopers
took down the whole battalion.
Waves, just waves.
But yeah, I was really relieved actually to see more Owen and Beru, because I was kind of afraid it would just be that one scene of Joel Edgerton and then seeing them from afar and be like, I mean, it's nice they got Bonnie Peace back, but like I'm glad that she actually got to do something. And the only thing I can think of now is something I'm stealing from our friends at Force Center, who said this, that Owen represents fear and Beru is hope. Even in episode 4, Owen is like, I'm afraid that this kid is going to be just like his father. And she's over here like, he's got to leave the farm one day. And it's the same thing where Owen is like, we got to run. And Beru says, no, we're going to stay and fight. Ben is gone. Whose fault is that?
Such a great moment.
Yeah, that's a good clap. She did so much in so little screen time. I'm really happy with how Beru was. And it lines up with Queen's Hope as well. And knowing that, this woman fought against the slave trade, like that makes sense.
Yeah, all the extra Beru content that we've gotten over the years, finding out about what her hopes and dreams were before they got Luke, and her stuff in Queen's Hope. Like she's a badass, and the look on her face when Owen is telling her like, we got to run. Yeah, Reva's coming. She's like, no, are you kidding me? I've been waiting for this moment. Let's gear up. We're gonna fight this. And her with the clap back of saying, well, whose fault is that? Stop being a jerk to Obi-Wan. Like, we need all the help we can get. That was such a great fight. I love seeing Beru and Owen fight in the Lars homestead. Just such a cool moment.
And to Owen's credit, also love the line of, he is my own.
I love that so much. Yeah.
And then someone pointed out to us that Reva does get a shot on Owen's knee or something like that, and that's why he has a little bit of a limp in New Hope. And I was like, I didn't even notice that. Like, such a cool little Easter egg.
But I thought this show broke canon with Star Wars. Like, I got so angry because I was on the I was supposed to be working, but I was on the YouTube, and all of a sudden one of my recommendations, IGN, like just posted like a video saying like, oh, how Obi-Wan actually doesn't help canon. And I'm just like, what? No, I'm not even gonna watch this video. This is like like, you guys don't get it clearly. You're just gonna use whatever happens in the show to nitpicks. And make that canon breaking, then we're watching different things.
If you want to see movies that are only created to help canon, watch the Fantastic Beasts movies.
Oh my god, girl, we can talk about those. I don't even know what's happening in those movies. I just saw the third one on HBO Max, and I'm just like, what's happening?
I'm not even. Yeah, like I watched Crimes of Grindelwald once because of a freaking trivia thing that I was doing, and the whole time I was like, who are these people? Like, because I'm just
nothing makes sense in Crimes of Grindelwald. And then the third one what's it called?
Made no sense.
Secrets of Dumbledore. The Secrets of Dumbledore. Then the whole plot of the movie is how the plot doesn't make sense. I mean, it's like, how if you're gonna start a movie saying that your movie doesn't make sense, then you've got a lot of problems. And whatever. Jude Law is still very handsome, and it's fine. But we're not talking about those. We'll talk about those in another episode.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. Jesus Christ. Mo, what did you think of Aunt Beru and the Beru crew? What did you think going? on in
think
that fight.
I'm thinking it's amazing. Like they're true parents, like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like doesn't matter, if it was adopted or an old man came from a space wizard and told you, hey, take care of your
Right,
nephew.
here you go.
Like they did show like everything they did was to protect Luke. Like that I love like that scene when they're like talking to Luke, like, okay, like you have to hide. Like they made a whole story about like some bantha hunt or something, like I don't know what it was. And then like Beru just like hugging Luke and being like, you'll be fine. But like you can see like that's such a tender motherly like moment, and it's amazing like how that just like goes and like be like, you know what, let's just fight. We have to protect, like we stand our ground. We like it's that strength that surpasses your own survival, because like you're doing it for your kid. And I think that whole battle scene just showed what two parents are. So
yeah.
Nani.
Yeah, I don't know. There's really not much more to add to that. I mean, it was amazing. They were fantastic. And then I think the greatest also testament of how much they really love Luke is that moment when Reva's like walking out of the desert and carrying Luke as if it's his corpse. And you can just see their faces that no way, until Luke actually breathes and they don't care that Reva's right there in front of them and that she could destroy them in 1 second. They just run to him. So there was a lot going on there that was fantastic. And it mirrors so much how much the Organas care about Leia. So we got this beautiful like found family thing at the end about how strong these two individuals are going to be because they had families that loved them, and that's how they grew up, as opposed to Anakin being taken into a cult of Jedi. So
I think that's hilarious though to compare with little Leia, because Leia just went through this whole ordeal and she's falling, she's all of these things, and she's like ready for battle.
The parents,
all of a sudden Luke, oops, I'm out.
Yeah, and Luke ran and fell, and Leia now has a holster, and he have her in the outfit, and
he's like, oh, I have to take a nappy nap.
I know. I was just comparing the families. Okay.
Oh, I know. But you put it in perspective, and I was like, oh my god, Luke's such an idiot. But he was a child. He was a child.
Leia should have been the main character always.
I was a little afraid that they were going to have Luke like force out or something and do something over the top. And I was like,
and then do a Grogu and pass out.
Right. I'm glad they didn't go that direction.
Yeah.
But something that I did like that they moved into a direction was a couple cameos at the end to wrap up part 6. And our two heroes, dark side and light side, both had a cameo of their own, of their current and / former, and I guess current again, masters. One is Vader with the best, Papa Palpatine, coming back to give him a little scolding. And then the opposite, actually, Obi-Wan getting Master Qui-Gon to give him a little pep talk. So I know Qui-Gon has always been my favorite Jedi. So I've been for months saying like Liam Neeson's going to be in this show. He's lying every interview that he's in, and he's saying that he's a snob and he would only do it in a movie. He's lying. And I remember the minute we were at Celebration, Tales of the Jedi panel, and all of a sudden Dave Filoni says that Liam Neeson's going to reprise the voice role for Qui-Gon Jinn. It's like, see, he's a liar. If he's doing the voice, he's in the show. He's in the show. So it took 6 episodes, but finally Qui-Gon Jinn shows up. Short and sweet scene, but for me it's meant the world, because I've been waiting to see Qui-Gon Jinn in live action for the longest time. So, and it's a great way to kind of end the show, because we start the show with Obi-Wan calling out to his master and not hearing our response, and then Qui-Gon being like, hey dummy, I've been here the whole time, you just weren't ready. So what did you guys think of the ending of the show and like those two master cameos that we've got? Molly, why don't we start with you?
I was so glad that we got this cameo, because him bringing him up, saying his name in the very first episode, and then it happens a couple more times after that. I was like, this is going to be such a letdown if we don't see Force Ghost Qui-Gon and like see him. We could have just gotten his voice and not the visuals, but I'm so glad that they got him back for this. Maybe they told him to film this scene. Maybe back when that was filmed, they were like, oh yeah, we're still doing the movie route. It's gonna be a movie.
Tricked.
Like it
That'll be
is
good.
from a certain point of view.
Yeah.
it is,
From a certain point of view, it's very cinematic. Yes, it's a movie.
It's a really
Yes.
long movie. We split into 6 parts.
Yeah. But for a little while during the fight scene, I was thinking, oh man, like is Obi-Wan gonna have a moment like Qui-Gon had in The Phantom Menace, where we see Qui-Gon kind of like sit down, center himself. I thought maybe we were gonna get Qui-Gon to speak to Obi-Wan at some point during the big fight, but I'm so glad that they waited till the end to just show to us that like Obi-Wan's finally who he needs to be and where he needs to be. He's kind of gotten past his demons, and now he can speak to his former master because he's where he needs to be. And I love that he says, I've been here all along. We've got a long way to go. Like, let's get started. And so
let's go to the sequel.
yeah. And it's so nice to see just like everything about the end of the series with Obi-Wan being happy and smiling and laughing. You see him as such a broken man, and then you see what he becomes, and you're just like, he did it. It
came full circle. I was a little disappointed to an extent because I thought he was gonna talk to his Jawa friend, and the Jawa friend was gonna be like, "Hey, I got this nice spot up in the rock with a nice little hut that you can live in." I thought we were gonna see that transaction of Obi-Wan buying his hut and setting it up, but
I bet we'll see
okay.
the what was the Jawa's name?
Tika.
I'll bet we'll see Tika in Mandalorian season 3. He'll be working with Peli.
Peli. Oh, 100%.
Or dating Peli.
Or dating Peli.
Maybe we've already seen Tika. We don't know.
That's true.
That's true. Hey, Alex, how did you feel about the ending of the show and our cameos of Palpy and Qui-Gon?
Yeah, Palpatine, I wasn't convinced was going to happen, so that was a fun surprise, and I liked watching their interactions of like, Kenobi is all that matters, and I'm going to burn this galaxy down until I find him, and Palpatine puts him in his place.
Like one line, and
it's like that stormtrooper told me
Kenobi means nothing. Yeah.
You know what it is.
I was kind of expecting Palpatine to do a little more, because I like hurt him or something, because the Grand Inquisitor had that moment where he's like, we should go after the path, and Vader says, no, we're going to do this, and I thought the Grand Inquisitor was going to tattle on him or something, but maybe he did. For Qui-Gon, I'm so glad that that's how they ended the series. Just that, this is the end of Obi-Wan's emotional journey, and this is proof of it, that he is who he's meant to be. He is a full-on Jedi again, and he's ready to start learning to become one with the Force. I love what Qui-Gon meant for the series.
Nani, your turn. What do you think of our one evil master and our light side master coming back?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the completion of the journey for both of them, obviously in different directions, because from Vader's point of view, he was still attached in some way to his Anakin identity, because he was still so obsessed with finding Obi-Wan, who is somebody that is so like interlaced with that identity. And the fact that with just a few words of like, not even that subtle manipulation, just basically he just calls him weak, and he doubles down. Oh, okay, no, we let him go. And with just those words, he decides that he's completely done with Obi-Wan Kenobi, completely done with who he was. And then we hear the Imperial March for the first time completely. So he's like his throne, fully embracing his identity of Darth Vader and leaving all of his past behind. And then from Obi-Wan's side, it's so hopeful, because he's accepted his past. It's not a rejection of it. It's an acceptance of it and a moving on from it. And then he was such a broken man in that just danky ass cave. And now, he finally, because I think Owen probably also saw the darkness in Obi-Wan, and maybe that was one of the reasons that he wouldn't let him meet Luke either. And now it's not just Qui-Gon recognizing him that he's in a place that is important, but Owen as well. It's like, now you are worthy to actually meet him and not just watch from the sidelines, and you can actually be a part of his life now. And so, then the extra Qui-Gon that we know, just, come on, let's get some work to do. And then just like go into the sunset, the double
Let's
sunset.
knock on the sky. Let's do this. Yeah.
And it was really, really just, it's such a hopeful end to a show that was honestly gorgeous and ups and downs and made you feel so much and made you reattach yourself to all these characters all over again. And, it gave them a depth that they've always had depth, but now it's a little extra. And I think the show did a lot to just make us care about these characters even more and want to know, if they're going to continue on this journey that they're doing now. I'd be excited to see like interactions with Qui-Gon, how he actually, becomes one with the Force. And I don't know, I think there's so many things that could happen. I really want to see more of Reva and what goes on with their character. And I don't know, I think I was really, like I said, not expecting much from this show, and I fell in love with it very quickly. So
it makes that moment with Ben Obi-Wan seeing Luke and Leia together in A New Hope.
Right.
It makes that whole moment hit so much harder, and you're just like, you know everything that they went through, and the journey that he had to go on. So, so good.
Yeah, and then her naming her son Ben, which kind of didn't make that much sense before, and I was like, oh yes.
Yeah.
Tear, but yeah.
Now it makes perfect sense.
Or more sense. Now I can accept it. Bo, what did you think? I know you were a big fan of Palpy, so were you more excited for Papa Palpatine, or were you more excited for Qui-Gon Jinn?
Well, I think Papa Palpy was like the best surprise. It was like the cherry on top. It's like, yes, it happened. Like you weren't in my radar, and here you are. Like, it's like,
as always, Palpatine. He's in the shadows, pulling the strings. Always.
And I love, like, if you put it that they're both like mirror images of like losing, like, breaking away from your past and the attachments to it. Like one on a dark side, like, hey, you're weak. Like, forget about that. Like, you're wasting my resources. I need to build the Death Star. Like, that's billions of dollars. Like, I don't need you running around the galaxy wasting gas. Like,
right.
Like, stay, like, refocus. And then Obi-Wan's, it's like, well, you're finally here. Like, I'm glad. Like, I always been here. Like, I'm glad you let go of your past. Like, let's go now. Like, they're both now just starting their next journey, the next, like, leg of their journey. One deeper into the dark side, and the other into the light side. But they both broke away from their past. Like, in that sense, like, one forced by their other mentor, and the other their
let
balance.
the past go, kill it if you have to, right?
Yeah. And it makes perfect sense for both their journey and how they meet up once again on A New Hope, because then that's like, if that's the last time they see each other, it's perfect. They see each other then a few decades later, and Vader's still thinking, I got the upper hand, and Obi-Wan being like, I already won the chess battle in my head, so don't worry.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm glad it happened, and it's, if, like Nani said, if they do like a sequel, I'm like, okay, Obi-Wan learning from Qui-Gon, I'm all for it. But if it doesn't happen, that's okay too.
It was a beautiful experience. Yeah, and to that, like, this has been like amazing. Thank you so much, you guys, for like talking to us about Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's been a great journey. But before we kind of wrap up, I guess, like, what has happened, we always like to do what we were talking before, a little healthy speculation. So now the show has wrapped up and we've seen what we got. Do we have any expectations now going to the future? I mean, I know there's a lot of Star Wars coming down the pipeline, but obviously we're expecting Andor and Bad Batch coming up next. But for Obi-Wan Kenobi, do we feel satisfied with the story we got, or has this opened the floodgates for wanting more Obi-Wan Kenobi stories? So just in general, do we want more Obi-Wan Kenobi? What else in Star Wars are we expecting? Just let's speculate. Alex, what do you want from Star Wars moving forward?
I'm okay with this being the only season of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am also okay with him popping up in other stories. I think that, like Molly said, if Reva were to join the Path or something, I wouldn't mind picking up some of those dangling plot threads, but I don't know that I need to see more of Obi-Wan's emotional journey, just because I thought that this one, the way they told it was so perfect, and I love the way it ended. So if they did a series about the Path or something, and Obi-Wan occasionally popped in to help out, I like that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I like him more in a supporting role, I think, moving forward.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. Just the fact that we got this character study of Obi-Wan, and we got such a perfect beginning, middle, and end to his arc, from where he came from, and then how he see him in episode 6. I don't need a season 2 of Obi-Wan. I would love to see Reva's character revisited. Reva visited. Yeah. Maybe something having to do with the Path, because like we need to see more stories where these dark characters are able to come back and not die
not
immediately.
Even more stories, just a story.
Give
us one
where we see the redemption. We see what the atonement looks like. We desperately need to see something like that in Star Wars, and it's gonna be hard to show that, because people are like, oh, she did so many terrible things, but Star Wars is about hope and redemption. So I hope we do get to see something with her going forward, and see how she atones and how she changes for the better. I would love to see something like that.
That's like a good one. Mo, how about you? What do you expect to see? Do you want to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi sequel series? You want to see a spin-off? What are your thoughts moving forward?
I mean, like everybody has said before, like if it's just Obi-Wan, I'm totally okay with this just being like, we got a beginning, middle, and end. We know what's gonna happen next. Like we have glimpses, and I don't think we need anymore. I mean, could be wrong, they give it to us, like by all means I'll watch it, like but I do want to see like maybe some like stories of like Leia growing up. I think that will be very like interesting, and like especially like that development into like the strategical and like both like political and like warfare that she represents throughout, like on every in her future. That'll be like some really good stories with like Lola and like just doing their own thing. Like I'm down for it. I think
Leia's adventures,
or it could just be like Leia meeting R2D2 or something like that. Like let's make it happen. Like Molly was saying, like something about Reva and like that arc of like having a redemption and like atonement. I think that's totally, because that's every time we get a character that goes to the light side once again, they just died, and that's an easy way to make it out. But how do you atone for your sins? And so we'll love to see that, and what perfect like combination and saving future younglings that from the fate that she herself suffered. So I'm all for that.
Nani, what do you want to see?
I think
what's your list of demands?
List of demands. No, Obi-Wan was it was fantastic. So I think I agree with Molly that if we do keep seeing Obi-Wan, because I would never say no to seeing more Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan, but I think he just needs to be in a more supportive role now, because it is true. I mean, his emotional journey has really come to a completion right now. Now it's all just about how he really, really finds all those powers through his interactions with Qui-Gon. But the turmoil itself and that most important failure that he thought was of his life, that was losing Anakin to the dark side, that's done with, and he knows it's not for him to save him now. So I would definitely love to see more Reva somewhere, and anything they do with little Leia, because she was amazing, and Vivian, the actress, she pulled that off so well. I mean, she was channeling Carrie Fisher that whole time. I thought she was incredibly amazing. And it's always good to have more girl, women, smart, powerful heroes. And I think Star Wars has always lacked it. And slowly but surely we get more when we got Rey and we got, the Martez sisters, and we've gotten a little bit more. But this Leia I thought was really, really powerful. I'd love to have watched this series when I was growing up and see Leia being so powerful and not everything having to be about Luke all the time. So,
right.
Very
much so.
Yeah. And it's cool that the actress that played little Leia, as she grows a little bit older, I would love to see Leia adventures kind of in the similar time. How old was she in the book?
16.
Leia, Princess of Alderaan. So maybe something before that or in between those two time periods. Like she can play this role throughout her life if she wanted to, and that would just be so cool to see. More Alderaan, please. I want to see it.
Oh yeah, and they did such a good job with Alderaan too. I would love to continue to see it. Yes.
And Jimmy Smits, our Puerto Rican boy.
yes. Put him in everything.
Yeah,
he'll be in Andor.
He'll be in Andor.
The only one that I would want from an Obi-Wan Kenobi continuation is not like a pure sequel from the show, because I agree with everybody. The show's done. There's really nowhere else for Obi-Wan to have like a full film or series to go to. But I do think that there's like one thing that would be cool to explore for him, and it's his teachings with Qui-Gon. And that would be totally cool if they do like a Tales of the Jedi-esque type of show, where it's just like these 10-minute, 15-minute short episodes of just like conversations of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. It's just like, what are we learning today? And just like those little snippets of Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor just doing a Force lesson. That would be cool for me. That would be all I need. I don't need anything else, as long as I keep getting a little bit more of Ewan and a little bit more of Liam Neeson in the role of Qui-Gon. That would be good, because I think everything we're living in the best time for Star Wars, honestly, and anyone that disagrees or is hating on anything said they can't find any joy in their life, because this is the best time. We got more Star Wars than we've ever had in anyone's lifetime. So it's really a good time to be a fan and to just enjoy everything. And I think the important thing to understand is that not every story is going to connect with you. Not everything's going to resonate with it. But there's always going to be something that you can find, whether it's in books and comic books, series, animated series, movies. Something will resonate with you. Just accept that just because one thing did not connect with you, it doesn't mean that Star Wars sucks or that Star Wars is dead. It just means that just wait for the next one or move to another fandom. But with that, let's just keep it positive and just enjoy everything, just like the wonderful show that we just got. But before we leave, Alex and Mollie, thank you so much for joining us and being with us. I know it ran a little longer, but we were having such a great conversation. We figured, let's just keep going. But before we wrap up, where can people find you?
You can find us over at Star Wars Explained on YouTube. That's mostly where we do all of our content, but we're also Star Wars Explained on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And we will
Twitter.
definitely
And Twitter.
and Twitter. And we will definitely leave links to all of that down in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. So please, if you don't already, please make sure to follow them, because obviously their content is amazing. It's content that we referenced as well to fill out some of the gaps in our knowledge. But with that, I think unless anyone has anything else to add, we are good for today.
Yes, thank you so much, Mollie and Alex, for joining us and talking about the series that we really loved. It was such a roller coaster. It was so much fun. We got so much good Star Wars. So thank you again. And until next time, we are Triad of the Force. You can find us anywhere that podcast can be found. Just search Triad of the Force and you will find us. Remember about what choice? Great fundraiser about abortion rights. Remember, if you don't have enough money to donate, just, spread the word, give a share. Any sort of support is what we need. We need to stay united against the injustices that we're seeing. And this is a good way to do it. And, that is correct. And so just, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about Kenobi. Let us know if you want to talk about everything that happened in the Capitol and with, our court justices. And until next time, may the Force be with you.